G'day guys, it's Brendan from Messages from the Ordinary Man. As you know, I'm Brendan. Your name is?
Alex.
Alex. Now, I've only just met Alex as normal with all the people that we talk to. Alex comes from a long Indigenous line in northwest Tasmania. Can you firstly give us a bit of an idea of the family name and family line?
Yeah, so my last name's Beaton. I'm not sure in exactly what Aboriginal tribe I come from, but I know there's generally about five Indigenous tribes, 6 Indigenous tribes in Tasmania in total.
Really?
Yeah, so we all had different names and things like that, but there was about 5 tribes that split up and used to roam Tasmania.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I come from one of those tribes.
Wow.
And then
And your family line goes back how long do you think?
oh, thousands of years.
Thousands of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so similar to what you've experienced, because I and I hope I wasn't rude when I asked the question. I said there's so many different types of Indigenous people now.
Yes.
It's not just a clearly like an Indian American, for example. You can see straight away they're an Indian American. Like an African American, you can clearly see straight away. For example, they're African American. Like if they're an Asian Australian, you can tell they're an Asian Australian. So,
absolutely.
So you know, I've got a lot of Indigenous friends myself back in Brisbane, and like his name was Brendan Bigby, and you know, his family was absolutely amazing, and even his hair family, the colour difference was absolutely phenomenal. His dad was a dark Aboriginal, and he was almost white. You know, and his mum, and she makes the best roast, by the way. She would made a fabulous roast. They're always good at cooking for some strange reason. Always good at cooking. I don't know what spices they put in. I don't want to know, but I tell you what, I was quite happy going there for Sunday lunch roasts. But it was really interesting to see the different types of Indigenous people that are out there.
So a lot of the colour difference and things comes from like multiple heritage breeding. So like breeding with other cultures and things like that. But a lot of Tasmania's history comes from like the stolen generation and things like that.
So what would we're going to go into this one now because I think it's important. What would you classify is the stolen generation?
So the stolen generation pretty much sums up of a lot of the families that weren't documented and things when Tasmania was settled. A lot of the Indigenous families were either put in camps or put in families for slavery and things like that. And some pretty horrific things happened. So like that, a lot of rapings went on, for example. And they did that to literally try and breed out the colour of the man.
Really?
Yeah. So that's some of the reason why some Tasmanian Aboriginals are quite pale, is because in the stolen generation and those times there was involuntary breeding, and they were trying to basically dull the colour out of
Unbelievable. Well, I'll tell you. I'll give you an example of my interpretation also of the stolen generation. I was speaking to an Indigenous lady, and she was talking how she was taken away from her family, and she was actually never taught about being a mum. Like, and not only she wasn't taught about being a mum, but her parents weren't taught. Her mum wasn't taught about being a mum, and her mum wasn't taught about being a mum. So you're talking 80 to 100 years of women
that have
never been taught, where it's a natural instinct for the mum and the dad to be able to teach their children what's right and wrong, and then the assertion of the Indigenous people they make the go to jail, all that sort of bad stuff. Well, that's not their fault. It's the fact that their families were taken away, and the actual understanding of the nurture of being a mother wasn't taught to them. It's going to literally take 100 years of basically re-educating the Indigenous mums and dads on how to be a good mum and dad, because they weren't taught it. All they saw was, you're going to this place and you're going to do exactly what we tell you to do. They you know, their life was a torment.
Absolutely, that's 100% correct. And like the thing that hurts the most about that sort of Aboriginal people is we're such a what's the word, like a sharing community and things that as well.
Yeah.
Like in my language, what is it? Renal. No, it's Palawi.
Palawi.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Palawakani means Aboriginal. Like Palawi is the language, and then Kani means language.
Yep.
So
Palawakani.
Palawakani.
Yep.
Yeah. So my language is Palawakani.
Yep.
And in my language, for example, we didn't have a word for mine.
Okay.
Everything was ours. It was a conglomerate. It was shared.
It was a share. It was so the whole tribe or the whole family looked after the whole family back then. Yep.
Yeah.
And that, once again, when you're talking at stolen generations, all that's been stripped away.
That's correct.
So you're now in this absolute battle.
Yeah.
For bringing that back and nurturing that sort of information back into who your nation is, who you are as a people.
Yeah, and then you had the rights and things in there that like were taken off us. So Indigenous people weren't allowed to birth registry until like the 70s or 80s or something.
Well, I'll tell you some good bit of news for you that you'll like.
Yeah.
My Uncle Paul.
Yeah.
My Uncle Paul Smith, who sadly passed away last year, headed up native title, Mabo.
Oh yeah.
So he was the man. He was a judge actually that went and understood what Mabo and native title was truly all about.
Yeah, cool.
And he was the person bringing in all the reforms that needed to happen because of what had happened to Mabo.
Yeah.
And I actually, spot on. I was very proud of my uncle because, you know, he got to experience all these, because Indigenous people have all different cultures. Like each tribe has a different interpretation of a snake or a kangaroo, and how they would draw it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's part of learning that language, what I call the language again. Yeah. And he used to tell me that, you know, they'd go, he'd sit down, and all the men would be around in a circle, and he'd just listen to their stories. Listen to their stories, wanting to understand what the government had done and how we can make amends and we can fix the mistakes that we made. So I'm actually quite proud that my family has been part of the Indigenous community of help correcting some of the wrongs that were out there. Yeah, and I you know, if my Uncle Paul was here now, I would be thanking him immensely for what contribution he did for the Indigenous community of Australia.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so, you know, I've got a special heart for you guys because it takes a lot of strength and courage to keep moving forward when there are people around you that will want you to be beaten down. At some point, people finally say, I'm not going to get back up anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to stay beaten. But the Indigenous people always seem to have this relentless saying, you know, look, we'll get back up. We'll get back up. So, you know, how has learning the language, being part of the community, experiencing the blessings of the community, what's that been like enhancing your life? Or you've known no different, it's just been what your life has always been?
Yeah, it's sort of just been always like that. So like I've always had a real deep understanding of my Aboriginal heritage and everything else like that. So the TAC actually has done a program called a youth group for quite a few years now.
Yep.
I started going to that when I was quite a young kid, maybe about 8.
Yep.
And basically they used to take us out and teach us some of our heritage and things like that.
Yep.
So they'd do games and stuff with us at like every second turn or whatever. Yep. But like they'd always try and give us some heritage and
understanding. Yep.
Yeah. So like I've been to a lot of caves and sites and things like that around Tasmania.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty cool to actually see. We have a lot of grave sites and caves and hut depressions and things like that here in Tasmania. Yeah, so that's all really cool to see.
So your family, so do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, so I've got 4 brothers.
4 brothers, and have all your brothers embraced their heritage?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, we all sort of accept that we're Aboriginal. There's nothing we can change about it. There's nothing
you shouldn't have to. Yep.
Yeah.
And your mum and dad, how do they get involved in the Indigenous community? You know, in all the different things that they do as well?
My dad actually passed away when I was quite young.
Sorry for your loss, mate.
But yeah, no, he used to be part of the Indigenous community and stuff like that.
Yep.
My mum's actually not Indigenous, so she's not had much to do with it.
Yep.
But yeah, the TAC's always kept me like in sort of thing.
Yeah. So has your mum always been interested in the Indigenous culture and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, she's always like never hid it from us because it's our heritage and things like that. So she's always learnt as going along while we learn.
Yep.
Because she was obviously not taught heaps because like as people get older, more information comes out. And
correct.
All that sort of stuff. So she's sort of sat on the sidelines and sort of helped when she can, but also learnt as we've learned.
So you're the oldest in your family?
I'm second eldest.
Second eldest. So your eldest brother became like the father of the house and helped with your boys?
No, he actually stepped down. He's a little bit more shy in the soul aspect, I'd say. So I actually stood up and took that role myself. Yeah.
And the dynamic of that with your brothers, that would have impacted quite well with them?
Yeah.
On you taking that leadership?
So it had much of a muchness, so like I had to lead with a heavy hand as well as be kind.
Yep.
So like because we didn't have my dad around or whatever, and
to learn that leadership. Yep.
Yeah. Or like punishments or anything.
Yep.
Like for example, my younger brother, he's only 10 months younger than I am.
Yep.
So there's not very much of an age gap there.
Correct.
So you'd imagine that he doesn't really want to listen to me if I gave him advice.
Yeah.
So quite often it actually just turned into a fist fight between him and I because we disagree on something and then it ended up in a brawl.
Yeah.
But we also have a lot of respect for each other now because he knows I'll put him in his place. Yeah.
Well, see, this is the thing, and kudos, mate. I'm actually extremely proud of you. I don't know if you hear people proud, but say they're proud of you. I'm a father of 4 kids.
Yep.
I understand the importance of being a good father and being a good role model. Helping them to understand that we as individuals all have choices, and you are going to own your choice. Now you can choose to do the wrong thing, but if you get punished, you have to own that punishment. So you have to accept the consequences of your actions. And I've had to have this discussion with my son a few times now. And I said, son, it's not going to stop me from loving you, but you need to learn that there are consequences for your actions. And yes, it might have been a stupid mistake, but a mistake still has consequences.
Yes, that's right.
And I think that's only learned by your parents. So the fact that your mum, and you should praise your mum, mate, because she's had to step in when your dad sadly passed away to be both the mum and the dad.
Correct.
And I think it was great that you were able to step up as in the male role to be able to say, okay, guys, we have to be responsible. We have to do the right thing. We have to lead by example.
Yeah, correct.
And by doing that, I think it makes it a lot better. You become a great example of the Indigenous community and say, hey, we've had pains, we have struggles, we've had to deal with a lot of different things, but we come out and we're stronger and we're better because of it.
Absolutely. Like I come from a pretty stereotypical Indigenous family, like drugs and alcohol and all the rest. I don't do any of it.
Yeah.
I don't drink. I don't take party drugs or anything else like that. And that's solely for that example.
Because you've seen what happens.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that's the fact you've actually chosen to say, I'm not going to allow my family or me to go down that road.
Yeah. So I also wanted to do that to set an example for the rest of my brothers and things like that as well.
And your mum would be thankful for that too.
Yeah.
She'd be extremely thankful for that.
Yeah, like I've always tried to strive myself on one sort of contributing factor. If I have a baby girl, would I be happy with that, like her boyfriend that she brings through the door? And if I fit that standard, like something needs to change if I'm not happy with that person.
Correct. Yeah.
Like if my daughter bring me home, for example, like would I be happy with that person?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's who you have to be. You have to be that image of what you'd want your daughter to bring home.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, mate, I've got to say this has been An absolutely very interesting conversation, mate. I think we need more people to talk more. I think what you should be really doing is, if you ever get the chance, talk to the Tasmanian Indigenous Council and see if you can start doing a mentoring program with young people.
Yeah,
actually talk to schools and different things like that, because your example is a great example of people coming through diversity and challenges and problems and coming out the other side.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, I mean, this is just my opinion, you know, I think you'd be a great ambassador in talking to young people, whether they're Indigenous or not, because I think every person's story, good or bad, right, there's a lesson that comes from it, and you just have to be able to make sure that lesson is understood by those people, and a young person like yourself is the perfect template for that.
So you're definitely right.
So mate, I appreciate you. You want to say hello to anyone for us?
Hey,
Other than that, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Hey, especially comment on if you think it's a good idea that this guy starts going around some of the schools talking about the culture and how we can best help each other. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon.